Have you ever wondered, behind the happy laughter, the exciting games at the amusement park, is there anything scary hidden? Amusement parks are not only places for fun, but also places to witness strange events, mysterious disappearances, and even things that cannot be explained. Keep your spirits up, because after hearing these 3 stories, you might think twice about setting foot in a park at night. Story 1. Our road trip was an unplanned adventure, each stop a new discovery. Whispering Pines, Virginia, was one of those unmarked destinations, a small town in the middle of nowhere with just enough character to catch our attention. We weren't looking for anything in particular, just a quiet, carefree day out. When we stumbled upon the amusement park on the outskirts of town, it felt like a hidden gem. The park was small, almost forgotten, with faded signs and squeaky rides reminiscent of days long gone. Yet the park had a strange charm, a pull we couldn't quite explain. The kids' excitement was contagious, and even though the park looked old, we decided to stay, thinking it would be a simple and fun afternoon. Little did we know, something far more disturbing awaited us beyond the gate. The day passed in a blur of laughter and simple joy, the delighted screams of children mingling with the creaking of the Ferris wheels. But as the sun set, casting long shadows across the park, something in the air changed. At first it was subtle, just a sense of unease settling in my chest, but I brushed it aside. After all, the kids were having fun. What could possibly go wrong? It wasn't until I realized my son was missing that the fear hit me. One moment he was there, tugging at my hand, and the next he had disappeared into the sea of old rides. My heart skipped a beat as I called his name, my voice shaking with panic. My wife joined in, her face pale with worry, as we frantically searched the park. Every second felt like an eternity, fear gnawing at me as I imagined the worst. We searched the rides, checked the snack stands, even asked the remaining patrons if they had seen a boy with bright eyes and a curious smile, but no one had. Then, as we neared the far edge of the park, I spotted him. My son was standing at the edge of a thicket of bushes, his small silhouette silhouetted against the fading light. Relief washed over me, but it didn't last long. As I hurried toward him, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. My son was talking, softly, almost in a whisper, to someone hidden in the shadows. I couldn't see who it was, but I could sense their presence, dark and ominous, lurking just beyond my sight. I called out to him, my voice sharper than I intended, and the figure retreated, slipping deeper into the darkness like a ghost. My son turned to me, his face strangely blank, as if he weren't really there. His eyes, usually so full of life, were distant, and for a moment I didn't recognize him. "What did you do?" I asked, trying to keep my voice calm. He blinked, as if coming out of a trance, and finally answered. "The man said not to be afraid." My son's words sent a chill down my spine, but the way he kept glancing at those bushes, as if waiting for someone to appear, made me afraid. We hurried out of the park, the once charming atmosphere now tinged with darkness and sinister. As we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that we had encountered something beyond our understanding. Something lurking in the shadows of Whispering Pines, waiting for its next visitor. Story 2. Returning to Thrillville, USA, in Georgia was like stepping into a ghostly echo of my childhood. The park, once alive with the sounds of joy and excitement, had become a wasteland. The roller coasters stood still, rusted tracks twisting through the air like the remains of a once living creature. The carousels lay silent, their painted horses frozen mid-ride, their colors fading with age. Nostalgia flooded me, but it was tainted by an unease that spread in the pit of my stomach. As I wandered the grounds, memories of laughter and carefree days mixed with the eerie silence that now filled the air. Every clang of metal and rustle of leaves sounded unnaturally loud, amplifying the sense of isolation. The sun was beginning to set, casting long, twisting shadows across the park, and the air grew colder, more oppressive with each passing minute. It wasn't until I pushed open the old bathroom door that the dread really set in. The door made a sickening clang as it swung inward, the sound echoing through the empty room. The air inside was stale, rotten, and something else, something that made my skin crawl. As I stepped inside, the light faded, leaving only a faint glow from the dirty windows to guide me. That's when I saw it. Standing by the farthest stall was a figure, unnaturally tall, his limbs stretched out in a defiant way. The shadows clung to him, obscuring his features, but I could feel his gaze. Cold, unblinking, and filled with something I couldn't name. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. The figure didn't move, but its presence was oppressive, as if it were sucking the air out of the room. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears as silence fell around me. Fear froze me in place, instinct screaming at me to run, but my legs refused to obey. Finally, the spell was broken. I took a slow, shaky step back, my eyes never leaving the figure. The door behind me made a deafening sound in the suffocating silence. The figure remained motionless, but its presence seemed to grow stronger, as if it were absorbing my fear. I turned and ran, the heavy door slamming shut behind me as I ran from the restroom. My breath came in gasps as I ran through the park, the shadows seeming to reach for me, the figure's gaze burning into my back. I didn't stop until I was out the gate, the cold night air biting at my skin. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The memory of that silhouette with its two long legs and piercing gaze is etched into my mind, a reminder that some places once abandoned should never be visited again. Story 3. Joyland, Kansas, a place we'd only heard whispers of. Once a bustling amusement park, now a graveyard of forgotten memories in rusted metal. The three of us were drawn to the place, drawn by the idea of exploring its decaying ruins under cover. There was something thrilling, almost intoxicating about doing something we knew we shouldn't do. As we passed through the rusted gates, the air smelled of oblivion, and the moon hung low, casting strange shadows over the ruins of rides that had once brought joy. We moved very quietly at first, the only sounds the crunch of gravel underfoot and the occasional rustle of metal in the wind. Our laughter, though quiet, cut through the silence like a knife, fueling the adrenaline coursing through our veins. It was exhilarating until it wasn't. The playhouse stood at the center of the park, a crumbling monument to the park's faded glory. As we approached, the peeling paint and broken windows loomed ominously in the darkness. We were drawn to it, a mix of curiosity and recklessness urging us forward. That was when we saw a humanoid figure standing in the corner, shrouded in darkness, as still as a statue. At first, we thought it was just that, a remnant of the park's macabre decorations, a strange shape meant to frighten visitors. But something was wrong. The presence of the figure seemed too real, too unsettling. We hesitated, fear weighing down on us as we tried to convince ourselves that it was nothing more than an old mannequin. But then it moved. Its head turned so suddenly toward us that our breath caught in our throats. Its eyes appeared black, seeming to pierce us, freezing us in place. For a moment, we stood in stunned silence, our minds struggling to process what we were seeing. Then, without warning, it charged. Panic exploded within us, and we turned to run, our footsteps echoing throughout the deserted park. But no matter how fast we ran, we could still hear its relentless footsteps pounding the ground, closing the distance at a terrifying pace. The familiar paths of the park had become a terrifying maze, each turn leading to dead ends and distorted memories of what this place had been like. Our hearts pounded in our chests, the world around us blurring as we sprinted for our lives. The chase seemed endless, fear consuming us as we desperately searched for a way out. Only when we burst through the park entrance panting did we dare look back. The park was silent again, the shadows still and motionless. The figure had vanished, as if it had never been there, leaving us standing there, shivering and drenched in cold sweat. We had come to Joyland looking for thrills, but what we found was something far more sinister, an echo of the past, twisted and dark, waiting in the shadows for the next innocent soul to stumble upon it.